Hello, I'm Zim. This is my channel where I talk about things because I can, and today I'm going to talk about the beloved farming simulator, Stardew Valley. More specifically, my personal favourite bachelor, who is none other than Shane. Quick disclaimer, I'm not demanding that anyone like him. I understand people will have differing opinions on a character. I just want to give my 2 pence, not 2 cents, because I am not American, on the discussion surrounding his arc, as well as just talk about why I like him as much as I do. The only quote-unquote valid reason anyone needs to dislike Shane is that they can simply not enjoy him or his storyline. But sometimes it feels like, due to how differing opinions are often treated in online spaces, people get so invested in explaining themselves to the point where they end up saying some pretty genuinely harmful stuff about the subject matter involved in his story. Because even though Shane is obviously fictional, his struggles are a reality for a lot of people. The purpose of this video is as simple as me wanting to ramble about one of my interests and putting it out so that some people can maybe find it entertaining. But if you're considering marrying Shane or have strong opinions on him, it might still be an interesting watch, even if you don't agree with me. Quick warning, this video will delve into subject matter such as alcoholism, addiction, suicide, and depression. If that's going to be upsetting for you, feel free to sit this one out, no hard feelings, take care. And with all that being said, let's talk about Stardew Valley's most misunderstood bachelor. Shane is one of 12 marriage candidates currently available in the game Stardew Valley. He's a generally pretty grumpy guy who's very cold at first but gets nicer the more you get to know him. He's technically the farmer's neighbour since he lives on the ranch directly below the farm with his Aunt Marnie and goddaughter Jazz. His loved gifts are beer, pizza, hot peppers, and pepper poppers, and he loves chickens, even having one of his own called Charlie. A secret note reveals he's also one of 3 older bachelors, which to me puts him in the mid-20s to early 30s range compared to the early 20s vibe of most of the other romanceable characters. And I do understand why Shane doesn't work for everyone as a marriage or romance candidate. He was originally only befriendable, but his romance route was added after he won the vote to get one. And he is definitely a less outwardly appealing option than many of the others. Of course, they all have their issues and flaws, but Shane's are a huge part of his story and progression. Every character has some level of development, but Shane's storyline tackles significantly heavier topics than most, and goes in depth about certain struggles. And what are these struggles? I'm glad you asked. I'm not going to beat around the bush. Shane is an alcoholic. He works a soul-sucking job as a shelf stocker at the Joja Mart. He's depressed and also likely grieving friends of his who passed away, leading him to drink to cope. From dialogue, we know that Shane likely used to live in the city but moved in with his Aunt Marnie in exchange for cheap rent. He can typically be found at work or at the saloon drinking, outside of the events included in his storyline. At 2 hearts, Shane will have a heart-to-heart with you on the docks and will offer you a drink. This is the start of him opening up. You've caught him at a vulnerable moment by chance, and for once he doesn't tell you to fuck off. The way he words things here implies that he's nervous to open up with his own feelings or confess exactly what he's going through. He starts off looking for understanding. Do you ever feel like, etc. He hasn't been able to get this off his chest, and you just happen to be there. The interaction ends with Shane saying that his liver is begging him to stop, and then presumably going to bed. So very early on we see that his drinking is out of hand and that he is somewhat aware of this fact. At 4 hearts, Marnie finds Shane passed out on his bedroom floor and asks you to help wake him up, which you do by pouring water over his head. While this start of this scene is a little funny, especially with how he jumps up all startled, it takes a sharp turn and shows us the monotony and futility of Shane's life from his perspective, how he can't see a future for himself at all. And I think this is a really good depiction of how mental illness can affect those around you. Shane's self-hatred makes him feel like he's not worth care or love. This self-hatred leaves him into destructive ideas and behaviour, in turn causing his loved ones to worry, leading Shane to feel guilty for hurting them because he assumed he would only be hurting himself without regard for their feelings, and the cycle starts again and again. Yes, it's easy to say he's an asshole, he's burdening them, and he definitely hurts Jazz in this scene, but he isn't trying to, and he's not trying to drain Marnie either. I think people forget that 2 things can be true at once. Yes, Jazz doesn't deserve to see him go through this, yes, Marnie shouldn't have to take care of him at his age, but mental illness is a reason for it. It's not an excuse, it's a reason. I would absolutely call him inconsiderate, but it's not coming from a malicious place. It's very easy to fall into a headspace like this when you're at your worst. The way I would try to put it is, it's like he's burning alive and his family are suffering the smoke inhalation. Yes, they are all hurting. Yes, Shane is at the center of it, and yes, they all shouldn't have to go through this, but he's going through the worst of it and still deserves help. And furthermore, the situation for his family won't improve until he gets help. Shane's 6 Heart event is probably his most infamous cutscene, or even one of the most infamous cutscenes in the whole game. The farmer stumbles upon Shane collapsed at a cliff's edge, drunk and crying in the rain. He laments about the lack of control he has over his life and asks why he shouldn't just roll off the cliff. It's evident that Shane is suicidal, but I think in a less conventional way than is typically represented. He's not actively planning to kill himself, there's no set date, time, or note. He just feels like he might at some point. He doesn't want to die, he just doesn't want to live, or doesn't think he can. He drinks and pushes people away to draw it out so that when he does die or his habits kill him, it won't be a shock to anyone. When the farmer shows up, he asks why he shouldn't do it because part of him doesn't want to or doesn't want to believe that he should, and he needs to hear it from someone else. Regardless of your response, Shane asks to be taken to the hospital and has his stomach pumped at the clinic, and the next day he shows up on your doorstep explaining that he's going to counselling. Now, something I like about Shane is how gradual his improvement is, how it's not like you can snap your fingers and fix everything. His 7 Heart event is in 3 parts. First we see him spending time with Jazz and Marnie, explaining he's drinking sparkling water instead of beer. Then we see him recording a commercial in town with Clint and Emily, followed by him sending you a strange recipe he found in the mail just for fun, because he thought it would be interesting. This is Shane finding reasons to keep going, trying different things, figuring out what makes him happy and spending time more productively than he used to before. I see people complain that he quote-unquote doesn't get better because he still goes to the saloon, but this is in part because he's a video game character with a set routine, and also because it's implied or explained in his events that he's not drinking beer there, rather sparkling water or soda, or going there to play on the video games. It's not linked to his development. Think of it the same way as you can give characters items you find in trash cans. In universe and context, they would probably know and think it's gross and wouldn't like it, but they'll still accept it happily because they're coded to. A similar example of game mechanics clashing with the writing with Shane even is that he has lines asking for Joja Cola, but it's a hated gift for him, but also a loved snack at the cinema. This isn't an exclusive issue with his alcohol consumption or an implication about his recovery, it's just the game mechanics. His 8 Heart event shows that he's been spending time breeding blue hens and teaching Jazz how to take care of them. This is obviously a long-term project and one he hopes will continue. He's finally thinking about his future and starting to be happier with his life overall. This is a job he enjoys, it's something he's doing because he wants to and not because he has to, and I think that's a really positive note to end his friendship route with. However, a lot of people's issue with him also specifically emerge post-marriage. Shane's spouse room is a mess. He's a bit of a slop, and he never fully stops drinking. These are facts. However, I think people take it too seriously because, again, he is a game character. His room is a mess because that's what his room looks like in the ranch, and every spouse room is a condensed version of their normal room. And while it would be nice for this to change in tandem with his storyline, I think the reason it doesn't is simply because he's not getting special treatment. I get it that sometimes people really regret marrying him if they don't know what his room looks like, but I don't understand some of the things people say about his room because the reason it ever looked like that was his poor mental health, and this is a real struggle. Messy, unhygienic living spaces are a common result of severe depression, alongside being one of the most demonized and looked down upon. I think it's crazy that people still talk about it this way, because depression can literally lead people to kill themselves. A messy room is absolutely not off the table. So when people make these big sweeping statements about Shane's room being disgusting and how it means he's not improving, statements like that can absolutely harm people who are dealing with this in real life. And there's also the fact that he still drinks. And I would agree this is a strange choice, but again, he has cut back, he drinks in moderation, he's doing better, and the fact that he has a few lines about beer or cider isn't a moral failing that makes his development completely void. Yes, in the real world, typically someone who has struggled with severe alcoholism will avoid alcohol for good to avoid the risk of relapse. But Shane is not real, his dependency was specifically from his mental health issues, so now that he's doing better, he drinks without getting drunk. You can gather from context clues that he has a lot of self-control and has come very far. In fact, the whole point of his 14 Heart event is that he goes to the saloon to play games and completely abstains from alcohol. and you assume otherwise, which is unfair to him after all the effort he's put in. So yes, Shane is not 100% alcohol-free and sober, but he's also not better. It just isn't an all-or-nothing deal, and I think that can apply in real life too in some cases. Recovery can look different for everyone. I had a little argument recently with someone because they said his 14-heart event should have been immediately after his 6-heart event, because otherwise how do you know he's actually getting better at all? And the fact of the matter is that this takes time and it takes trust. The events leading up to his 8-heart event show him finding reasons to get better, other things that make him happy, because it's a gradual process and one that takes a lot of motivation and willpower. Yes, his 6-heart event was his wake-up call, but that's only the beginning. It gets the ball rolling, but think of him as Sisyphus. Mental illness like this is never guaranteed to fully go away, and it's a constant uphill battle for many. You can't fix Shane because nobody can fix Shane. This is something you learn to live with despite the ups and downs. What matters is that he's constantly working through things and constantly still trying. You never see it get as bad as it was before. I'm sure many people think that ideally he would be completely sober, but sometimes things don't turn out ideally, and sometimes better is what you get. After looking through a lot of discussion surrounding Shane online, I can understand why his story is touchy. For people who have had their own bad experiences with addiction or suicidal ideation, it can be very triggering and dredge up bad memories. Or for people who have been hurt by alcoholics or other addicts in their lives, it can easily put them off from his character entirely because of previous trauma, or because of the understanding that you can't help somebody who doesn't want to be helped. It's a harsh truth that somebody who doesn't want to change won't change, and I'm not trying to invalidate that at all. The thing is that Shane does change, just not in the way some people want him to or expect him to, which has led to some pretty wild comments and statements that I wish people would think twice before posting. Because again, while he may not be real, his experiences can be. In fact, I myself and most of the people who I know who have married Shane are drawn to him because of empathizing with him or relating to him, as opposed to, oh, you have a savior complex, oh, you have daddy issues and you want someone who's going to insult you, oh, you just want to fix him, whatever. Personally, I just think Shane is a very raw depiction of what passive suicidal ideation and depression can look like, including the fact that it doesn't magically go away. And I think people dislike that so much because it's a harsh truth to come to terms with, and one that maybe disrupts the peaceful escapism of Stardew Valley. And again, mental illness is a reason for his behaviour, it doesn't excuse it, but I still don't entirely understand the flack he gets for being rude. Alex is outwardly misogynistic if you play as a woman, Haley is rude and shallow before you get to know her, and so on, but what they all have in common is that they work through these flaws as their stories progress. Shane's just takes a little more elbow grease, and if you don't want to deal with that in your playthrough, that's fine, you do you, just maybe don't take to the internet and make big statements that contribute to a lot of existing stigma. If you don't enjoy certain characters and the way they interact with you, you actually just don't have to talk to them. Something I think about a lot is that, in my opinion, Shane parallels the player to a degree. Working a soulless job, moving from the city to the countryside, presumably to escape something, dissatisfied with his life, so on. But the difference is that the player is very fortunate in comparison. You escaped your job, you inherited your own farm, you have independence, you have freedom. Shane, however, is dependent on his aunt and still stuck in a routine that drains the light out of him, with some level of responsibility to care for his goddaughter following her parents, his friends passing. Shane is not a uniquely shitty guy. He's just like anyone else going through a lot and not dealing with it healthily until he gets the support he needs. And I really like that about him, even though I get it's not everyone's cup of tea. This is my way of hard launching that if I ever get around to making a Stardew Valley gameplay video series, I will probably be marrying him. I do that in every save. I even have a polyamory mod just so I can always marry him even if I want a new spouse too. Before I end this video, I also want to add, if you enjoy Shane but don't feel entirely comfortable with how the topic of alcoholism or sobriety is handled, there's a great mod called Immersive Character Shane by 10,000 Cats. I don't have this mod on every save where I've married him, but I still recommend it because it adds a lot of extra dialogue that I really like. You can also toggle the state of his room and change his reactions to alcohol. With this mod, he will also still talk about sobriety and talk about having bad days, so it doesn't erase his issues, rather it fleshes them out more than the base game allows for. And that's all I have to say, really. In conclusion, you don't have to like Shane in the slightest. I just wish people would be more mindful of how they talk about him, because those statements don't exist in a vacuum, and can very easily contribute to existing stigma and misunderstandings surrounding mental health issues. If you guys have any ideas or requests for other marriage candidates I can make a video in this style for, feel free to suggest them in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing. I'm hoping to hit 10k by the end of the year, and you can also follow my Instagram if you like, but no pressure. Okay. Thanks, bye, love you, I just lost the game.